Good afternoon, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well on this Saturday, November 15, 2025. This is Lorraine Alternative Homesteading. Remember to hit the thumbs up and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you're notified when a new video is posted. Remember, tonight I have the live chat at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. Usually goes to approximately midnight, maybe a little bit before, a little bit after. If you enter the chat and music is playing, it's because I have not been able to get to the chat and I'm probably taking care of the cats. So anyway, this topic, before I get into the topic, thank you everybody for leaving me your comments, and I'll probably do another video about your comments and stuff. There's just too many. And I like to do a separate video just so you can go through the questions and answers and comments and stuff. But yesterday, somebody entered my house because they're so stupid. Well, they do it intentionally. I have a very narrow hallway, and alongside the hallway, I've got stuff stacked because I've got no drawers, no closets, no shelves. So I've got stuff stacked, and somebody was in here and knocked everything on the floor. So they were probably, entering, exiting, either deliberately or banged into it, knocked it on the floor. And later in the day, I woke up with all these bumps on my head, on my skull. Yes, bumps. I've tried to photograph it, virtually impossible with my hair covering them. I guess that's why you guys cut your hair, keep it short. But anyway, I was curious. I was thinking about this morning, about the black ops that target us. And yes, the black ops are part of the criminal fraternity and the tentacles, just like this octopus. But octopus, they're really smart. These guys that regenerate themselves, they are studied by the military, by the way. These creatures are studied. A lot of animals, a lot of sea creatures are studied by the military, but the octopus is one of them. But I was curious. I said, can you tell me about the military black ops? Who do they report to? Who gives them orders? Where does the money come from? What happens if they disobey orders to harm innocent people? This is ChatGPT. Here's a clear, factual, non-classified explanation on how real military black ops, usually called black operations or covert operations, work in legitimate government structures and what does not exist or happen legally. Okay? So sometimes chat gives me the correct information. Sometimes I have to dig a little bit. I did not dig. I just asked these questions, and this is what I got. In real government and military terminology, black operations are missions where the sponsor is not acknowledged publicly. Details are highly classified. They're designed to be plausibly deniable. They are not rogue groups acting outside the chain of command. They are not legally allowed to harm civilians. You hear that? The real world black ops, quote unquote, fall under covert action, special operations, or intelligence activities. So who gives them orders? What's the real chain of command? So the U.S. military special operations are groups. The groups such as Delta Force, the 1st SFOD-D, SEAL Team 6, DEVGRU, DEVGRU, Air Force JSOC units, CIA Attached Special Activities Center, which is SAC, SOG. These units take orders through a strict chain of command. Typically, the first person is the president. Then it goes to the Secretary of Defense, then the Joint Chiefs of Staff, then the Combatant Chief of Command, which is, for example, SOCOM. And for you guys, you probably know what I'm talking about, you military guys. I don't. JSOC, unit commanders, operators. They do not operate independently. Even the most secret missions still follow this chain. Okay, so that's the first chain. Now, the second one is the CIA covert action. When the CIA runs a covert or black operation, the chain is first the president. Second, National Security Council. Then the CIA director, which is a DCIA. Special Activities Center, which is SACSOG. Then there are the operatives. Every covert action requires a written presidential finding, quote unquote. Congressional Intelligence Committees must be notified. The CIA cannot legally run operations without presidential authorization. Well, I'm not that politically savvy, but from what I understand, they actually do operate without presidential authorization. Like, isn't that what happened to JFK? You know, when he was driving along and waving to everybody in the public, wasn't there some CIA person driving the vehicle and turned around and just wham, bang, banged him? I don't know. That's what I heard. But I can't confirm or deny it. Can you? Where does the money come from? Well, congressional funding is most common. Even classified programs appear in the U.S. budget, such as the black budget line items. So I guess, like in the balance sheet, they must have like a black budget. Classified appropriations to the DoD, which is the Department of Defense, and CIA. I call them the criminals in the air. You know, just like the FBI is my favorite bureau of instigation. The CIA is the criminals in the air. Congress knows the totals, even if they don't know operational specifics. Reprogrammed defense phones. Like, what does that mean? Reprogrammed? Programming funding? How do you program funding? SOCOM can shift funds internally for urgent classified activity. Number 3, emergency presidential authority. The president can authorize immediate funding through the National Security Council for covert actions. There is no legal pathway for quote-unquote secret private funding or rogue financing of military units. Leave a comment down below on whether or not you believe that to be true. Now, a chat says, this is the myth versus reality. In the myth, this is a myth, this is claiming to not be true. Black ops are rogue groups operating in the shadows with no oversight. The reality is all real U.S. black ops are authorized by the president and overseen by Congress, their intelligence committees. I'm sorry, I'm not sure that I believe that, but leave a comment down below. Am I wrong? I mean, I don't know. I am not a political person. I'm just, you know, I listen to things, I watch videos. That doesn't seem correct to me. The myth is that they're allowed to harm civilians. Targeted people, could you speak out here about the myth that they're allowed to harm civilians? Okay. The reality is military and CIA are prohibited from targeting civilians. It's a war crime. I know you're all gagging right now. You're all spinning around and throwing stuff at your computer screen and your iPhone and your Android. Chat. I don't know about this, chat. Operatives are untraceable and off book. That's the myth. The reality is every operator is tracked, identified, operations and actions. The myth is disobeying orders leads to secret executions or disappearances. From what I see in the news, that is not a myth. That is actually that is a fact. That disobeying orders goes to secret executions or disappearances. I mean, come on, guys. This is like military, black ops, mafia, Freemason. This is what they do. They disappear people. Like here in eastern Kentucky, remember those 8 evil group family members, of family names in eastern Kentucky? That's exactly what they do. The reality is they face military justice, not extrajudicial punishment. I I don't know, guys. I think I disagree. So what happens if an operator is ordered to harm innocent people? Well, Chach says the U.S. military has strict criminal and ethical rules. Mm-hmm. They must refuse unlawful orders. Under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, and international law, a soldier must refuse killing civilians, torture, illegal surveillance. I'll just repeat that. Illegal surveillance, targeting non-combatants, harming U.S. citizens without due process. Okay. Targeted people out there? How many targeted people do you know that were deleted, tortured, illegally surveilled, targeting non-combatants, harming U.S. citizens without due process? Mm-hmm. Now, following an illegal order is a crime. What happens if they refuse an illegal order? Technically, they cannot be legally punished. A whistleblower protections apply, especially for intelligence officers. Well, I beg to differ. Ask William Binney. Right? How about Karen Stewart? NSA, worked for the NSA for 28 plus years. Whistleblower protections. Edward Snowden. Yes. He's being protected where? In Russia. yes. He's being protected in Russia. Technically, like our enemy, right? Well, if they obey an illegal order, they can be court-martialed for war crimes, murder, dereliction of duty, violation of the law of armed conflict. I'm hearing about this for the first time. Violation of law of armed conflict. And quote unquote, no one told me is not a defense. So what if a unit tries to go rogue? This is extremely rare and historically does not happen in the I'm sorry, guys. It does not happen in the U.S. Due to constant surveillance, accountability, multiple intelligence agencies monitoring each other, strict funding, trails, legal oversight. A rogue black ops unit would be detected very quickly because they cannot fund themselves, but they can be funded by secret people, right? What are those private contractors, and what about the black budget? Of course they can be funded secretly. Well, the rogue black ops unit would be detected quickly because they cannot move weapons without signatures. Well, we all know that happens all the time. All the time. In fact, in this book that I'm reading, Camelio, A Strange But True Story of Invisible Spies, Heroin Addiction, and Homeland Security by Robert Guffey, he actually stumbles across a guy who actually has all this military-grade goggles and weapons and even a truck. A truck. Like a vehicle. Like a huge vehicle. So it says here they cannot move weapons without signatures. Well, I wonder who signed those out. They cannot conduct operations without command authorization. And other agencies like the FBI, NCIS, OSI, CIA, NSA monitor internally. I don't have a comment on that. So if you want, ChatGPT says, I can also explain how psychological operations work. Yes, I want to know about the psychological operations. Yes, tell me about psychological operations. So I thought that was really interesting. Because a lot of people have said, like a lot of what happens to targeted people is like black ops, like the InfraGard. The boots on the ground, the inhumane terrain team that's living on my property. So ChatGPT says, well, here's a clear, factual, non-classified explanation of psychological operations, PsyOps, and what they really are, how they work, and who uses them, and what happens when they're misused. So what are psychological operations? PsyOps are strategic efforts to influence emotions, beliefs, and behaviors of specific groups. They are used by militaries, intelligence agencies, advertisers, political groups, and in less formal ways, even social media influences. Well, that's for sure. The core idea is that they use information, symbols, and messages to influence what people think, how they feel, and what they do. So now there are different types of PsyOps. There's the military PsyOp. This is the real definition of a military PsyOp. The U.S. Department of Defense, a PsyOp is officially a military field staffed by specially trained soldiers. Their mission are usually to influence foreign populations, like, for example, encouraging enemy soldiers to surrender or convincing civilians to avoid dangerous areas, like pumping V2K, a voice to skull, the voice of God, weapons at our enemies, right? And have them raise up their hands and surrender. Then there's the counter enemy propaganda. They support diplomacy and national security goals. They shape perceptions in war zones, like with a radio broadcast, leaflets, loudspeakers, and social media. These messages are highly regulated and cannot legally target American citizens. The military PSYOP. Well, we know that that's not true. I mean, come on. I just got demonetized on YouTube, right? The key techniques used in a PSYOP are, and these are the real psychological strategies. They use fear, create uncertainty, dread, or doubt, confusion, overwhelming a target with conflicting narratives so they don't know what to believe. 3, social pressure, making someone think everyone else is doing it or everyone else believes this. Isolation, which is the tool of the narcissist, convincing a target that they're alone, rejected, or unsupported. Identity manipulation, appearing to group identity, tribalism, patriotism, and revenge, etc. Yes, and this is like the slander campaign comes in to manipulate who you are to other people, which is blatantly a lie. Reinforcement loops. These are repeated messaging from multiple sources to create a sense of consensus. So this is where your loser neighbors, they all get together in the little coven groups, the little predatory groups, and they say, oh, well, we're going to spread this message around to multiple sources. So we're going to create a consensus that Lorraine is X, Y, and Z. And then everybody in the neighborhood is going to think that because we told them that, even though it's not true. Emotional overload. Driving strong emotional reactions, anger, fear, shame to reduce logical thinking. Then there's the false consensus, creating the illusion that a belief or behavior is a widespread. So what are the types of PSYOP? Now, I'm hearing this for the first time. There's a white, the color white, PSYOP, truthful, attributed to real sources. For example, U.S. military broadcasts in Iraq encouraging civilians to avoid landmines. Oh, yeah. When was the last time they did that? Gray PSYOP. This blends truth with anonymity. The source is not fully identified. For example, an anonymous pamphlets are discouraging enemy support. Then there's the black PSYOP. False information, false identity sources. For example, fake radio broadcasts pretending to be from enemy fighters to create distrust. Most countries do some form of all three. Tools and methods. The traditional methods are radio broadcasts, leaflets, posters, loudspeakers, and rumor campaigns. Now, the modern PSYOP is social media bots, targeted ads, influencer amplification, meme warfare, fake personas, online communities, and hashtag flooding. Oh, and by the way, I've said this before, If you hashtag in your comments section, it's held for review, I'm no longer going to ask you to not do it anymore. I'm just going to delete your comments. Okay? It's only a few people doing it, but they're fairly new people, and I don't know who they are. But do not use hashtags in the comments section. Okay? If you want me to see a video, do not post the link in the comments section. Email me privately. YouTube holds them for review anyway. And I don't want URLs or links to outside that I haven't viewed yet. And it's already posted there. And that can also get a channel demonetized. So don't do it. I'll be deleting them. So the U.S. can PsyOp targeted Americans. Oh, can PsyOp target Americans? Legally, no. Under U.S. law, the military is prohibited from psychological targeting of U.S. citizens. However, mistakes and abuses have occurred historically with the FBI's COINTELPRO, CIA's MKUltra, Operation Chaos, which is the CIA's surveillance of Americans, and these were exposed as abuses, investigated, and no, it was not shut down, ChatGPT. We need a conversation here. ChatGPT says it was shut down. No, 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 it was not. It morphed. Number 2, social media companies, private contractors, foreign governments, and political groups do use PsyOp style tactics. But they're not called PsyOp, but psychologically identical techniques like targeted propaganda, smear campaigns, harassment, destabilization, influencing perception through coordinated groups. These are not military PsyOp, but the methods overlap. So what happens if a PsyOp is being misused? And I'm just going to add, like in the Targeted Individuals program, where we're totally PsyOps. In official military units, official operators can be court-martialed for unlawful targeting, deception against U.S. citizens, and unauthorized operations. Commanders are held responsible for misuse of psychological influence. Congressional inquiries can shut down or investigate abusive programs. Yeah, they're doing a great job. Clap, clap, clap. The Inspector General can open investigations into wrongdoing. Okay. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that that information. So what that was I asked ChatGPT, what is a black ops? Who funds it? How is it used? And then I asked, well, what are actually psychological operations? So the black ops were military operations, and then we ask what were the psychological operations. So leave a comment down below. I know you guys are going to have something to say about what ChatGPT said here, about how illegal all the things that are happening to targeted people are, and nothing's being done about it. So I hope everybody's doing well. I will talk to you guys later.